As Oracle developers, we constantly come across situations where there are multiple ways to solve the same problem. For example, let's say I need a derived value inside my table, something like annual compensation, customer risk score, or even calculating age from date of birth. Now, there are multiple ways I could implement this. I could store the value physically and maintain it using a trigger, or I could use a virtual columns, and there are several other ways as well. The problem is that every developer has an opinion. Some say triggers are slow. Some say virtual columns are always better. But who's right? To answer that properly, I would need to design a benchmark, create test tables, generate large amounts of data, execute performance tests, collect statistics, analyze execution plans, and then produce a final report. And honestly, doing all of that manually can take hours or even days. So instead of doing everything myself, I decided to see whether AI could help here. But there is a catch. If we use generic AI model, there is always the possibility of hallucination. The model might generate something that sounds correct but isn't actually aligned with Oracle's best practices. That is where Oracle skills come in. Oracle skills are Oracle curated knowledge packs designed to provide domain specific expertise and context to AI systems. Instead of relying only on general AI knowledge, Oracle skills help the model understand Oracle specific concepts like SQL optimization, statistics, indexing, and then there are several other features which can be used here. So today we are going to combine AI with Oracle skills and see whether it can design the benchmark, build the schema, generate the data, define the test, analyze the results, and then produce a final recommendation. And then we'll see if its conclusions actually make sense. So let's get started.
Welcome back to my channel Into the Oracleverse, where we learn about Oracle SQL, PL/SQL, and Apex. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button.
Before we jump into the benchmark, let's quickly understand what a trigger is. A trigger is a piece of PL/SQL code that automatically executes when a database event occurs. For example, when a row is inserted, or when a row is updated, or when a row is deleted, a common use case is maintaining the derived values. For example, annual compensation or even the the age calculation from the date of birth. So whenever the salary changes, the trigger automatically recalculates the annual compensation. And whenever the year changes, or whenever we provide the date of birth as an input in a particular column, so the age would automatically get calculated and it will be stored in a different column. So this means that the data is physically stored, and then hence the data can be read faster, and additional storage would be consumed, and additional overhead during the DML operations. What is a virtual column? So a virtual column is different. Instead of storing the calculated value physically, Oracle stores only the expression. So whenever the column is referenced, Oracle evaluates the expression dynamically. For example, if the annual compensation might be calculated using the salary into 12 plus bonus, so the result is not physically stored, whereas only the formula is stored, and then Oracle computes it whenever it is needed. So this means that the particular value is not stored physically, and hence the maintenance would be simple, and also there is potential computation overhead whenever it is queried. Also, both the approaches can be indexed, and hence the real question becomes which solution is actually better. Is trigger-based storage faster? Do virtual columns save enough space to justify using them? How do both solutions behave under large-scale workloads? And perhaps most importantly, what would Oracle recommend in a production environment? Instead of making assumptions, let's benchmark it. Now, if you haven't set these skills up yet, so I have a particular video with which you would be able to do that, and I'll be using my Docker environment. So if you would be able to set up your free Oracle 26 AI DB within Docker, and you would be able to use it for development or testing activities, for learning activities. So if you want to set that up, so I have a video for that as well. I'll add this as well in the info section, and I'll be using Claude Code to actually benchmark the solutions. And then yes, so let me show you the prompt that I have. So I am asking it to act as a particular Oracle performance engineering team. So I am asking it to take up different persona so that it would give a variety of results. And then I do have the relevant skills connected with it, and I also have the SQLcl connected. So with SQLcl connected, it would be able to interact with the database in a much simpler way. And I have a separate video for that as well, which would help you set the SQLcl up with your Claude desktop. And I'm asking you to compare the trigger based approach as well as the virtual columns approach, and I'm asking you to calculate the query time, and I am asking you to generate a final report which would be suitable for the Oracle DB developers or Oracle Apex developers, and then DBAs and the enterprise architects and people like that. And I am asking you to use the Oracle skills whenever needed, and I'm also asking you to track wherever the skill is used, so that we would be able to know how the skills are making a difference. And there are certain other aspects which I have provided to actually guide it through the both of my solutions, and then I'm asking it to test against a different data set. And then yes, so finally the performance testing would be there, and then we would also have a performance analysis, and the validation would also be there, and finally the report would be generated, with which we would be able to know which solution weighs over the other solution and why it weighs over the other solution. So instead of getting generic explanation, I'm asking it evidence-based conclusion. So yes, so since we have everything, so I have a schema called test schema created. So I am asking you to use test schema via SQLcl to perform this analysis. And this would be the only thing that I'd be doing. So let's see whether AI is able to help us with this. Yes. So now it has been connected to my free DB schema. Yes. So now it's loading the Oracle skills. Great. So now it has loaded the Oracle skills. Yes. So it has started with the SQL execution, and I believe it should be creating the yes. So it is creating, connecting with the DB, and yes, it is checking for some objects that it is planning to create. Yes. Yes, it's creating indexes and things like that. So let's wait for a bit. Great. So the tables have been created. Now, yes. Great. Stats are gathered now. Yes, so the benchmark has been completed. Yes, seems like 5 skills were applied here. Yes, and let's look into it one by one. So these are the 5 skills that are used, and seems like explain plan is used the most. And then we have optimizer stats, index strategy, SQL tuning, blocking concurrency, and data modeling. And yes, so the most impactful skill was explain plan, which directly revealed the trigger architecture triggers and index skip scan path, and the reference. So the cost associated is also provided here, and the cost associated with the virtual column is also provided here. Yeah, so cost 95, and the query time execution is also provided here. So after that, we can see the actual architecture overview of trigger based and virtual column based and the query time calculation. And there are certain stats. So seems like the storage is more for trigger as expected, and it is less for virtual columns. And yes, so the block use is also reserved here, but here there is no update growth needed. Yes, so and then we are able to see the table size, as expected, visual is less, and indexing overhead is more for trigger. Yeah, so there are several benchmarks that we have provided in the query, and we can see the results in a better way. So for 1K, so the results are like this, where the query time took more time, and yes, the virtual columns were better here. And for 1K, the trigger was better for updates. And yes, so we can see the relevant details here. And for query read operation, so this is the most important part, where for reading as expected, or here it's a bit different. So for aggregation, visual works well, but in all the other aspects, so we have the trigger based as better one. And then the logical reads comparison results is also here, and here is the full results matrix, where we have checked the performance for different rows. So for 1K rows, for 500 rows, for 5K, and we were able to perform several calculations here, and for each calculation the winner is also noted here. And then an execution plan analysis for all the three methodologies is also captured. So this phase 7 is quite important, because here I have asked it to predict the results even before the things were executed. So here you are able to see, or you would be able to see, that some results are partially right and some are better. So the prediction is better, and in few cases it is entirely wrong. So here from this we are able to understand or infer that so the predictions are just made using the theoretical things. So only when the SQLcl MCP is integrated, so we would be able to use AI to actually perform the inserts, updates on the database, and we would be able to infer the right results from the database. So this is very much important. So this phase is quite important, and this will be helpful. And yes, so there are few key learnings that the AI was able to infer from the actual execution. And then we have the storage analysis, And yes, so finally we have the system level recommendations. So for OLTP, seems like virtual columns is better. For reporting or analytics, we need to use trigger. And then for high volume transactions, seems like virtual columns is better. And for mixed workload, so we can use virtual columns alongside the targeted triggers, so the hybrid path. And here we have the DDL recommendation for production deployment as well. And finally, we have the risk assessment, and with this, we would be able to infer the right thing in a best way. And the final verdict states that virtual columns has an edge over trigger on certain aspects, and all those aspects are provided here. And then we do have trigger performing well for reporting and other things. And based on the analytics, so we were able to see that the query time calculation is a bit slow, and hence it need not, or it shouldn't be used in production. So the conclusion also states that the explain plan and the index strategy skills were very much useful here. These are the inferences from the benchmarking that we did through AI. This experiment isn't really about triggers or virtual columns, it's about architectural decision making. Traditionally, we would have spent a significant amount of time designing benchmarks, collecting data, and validating assumptions. What AI and Oracle skills Repo allow us to do is accelerate that process. Instead of spending hours building a test framework from scratch, we can focus on validating results and making informed decisions. The AI doesn't replace anyone here, rather, it significantly reduced the time required to reach a well informed conclusion. And honestly, that's where I see the real value of AI within our on in our day to day activities. I hope this experiment would have provided more additional insights on why virtual columns need to be used in comparison with a trigger for a particular derived column creation. Yes, if you need any other comparison, just let me know in the comments. Maybe triggers versus materialized views, or function-based indexes versus virtual columns, or procedures versus SQL and things like that. Yes, and I'll be happy to explain that in upcoming videos as well. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you again in the next video. If this video helped you learn something new or find what you are looking for, please give it a like. It really helps the channel. I'd also love to hear your thoughts, so feel free to drop a comment below. And if you are interested in more content like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again in the next video.